we're live.
Hey, bienvenidos.
All right, everyone.
Bienvenidos,
Welcome to Call It Out There, the Cool Heels podcast.
We named it.
Unscripted, unrehearsed, unprepared. And I, of course, am Eric Wright. With me, as always, is smoking a blunt, Spicy McHaggis, the Rat King Billy Moon, Satan himself, Altub Esquire, and not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole, Richard Sincere.
Gracias.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, dear Lord. How we doing, guys?
I'm getting there.
By the looks of everyone, I'd say you're holding up well.
I am fire. I am death.
It's a good thing there's a soft filter on the webcam that I use, because, like, I look like shit right now. It's real bad.
Oh, well.
And that's different from when?
Oh, well.
We live in the same
You know,
town,
you were all thinking it.
Oh, that's a spicy attitude.
Starting off getting dunked on. Wonderful.
Oh, I should clarify when I say that Call It Out There is the Cool Heels podcast. By I mean it's the possessive of Cool Heels. We are not called the Cool Heels. I can't stress that enough. We deliberately gave ourselves an obtuse name. So.
And I really wish I had the capabilities to change your moniker over your head to Eric Wright right now.
Oh, God. Yeah.
There's nothing better than creating confusing names so people have to say it more than once.
Yeah. Take it from Richard Sincere. Spelled
Correct.
SYNCY.
Hey, he didn't come up with that. That was his wife.
That's correct.
All right, gang. So are we going to get right into our topic?
Absolutely.
I thought you had a recap to do first.
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, you missed
God,
last
thank
week,
you,
too.
God.
Did you watch last week?
I know. Well, fortunately, I can surmise both Raws because I have a steel trap of a memory. I remember every minute of Raw, and I can recap it extremely accurately. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Who gives a shit?
Not me.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
I couldn't give two fucks.
Sure. Now that we got the important news out of the way, what did we?
Is Billy drinking lean?
Out of a water bottle? No, I just I bootlegged some whiskey and I put it in a water bottle, like I'm fucking 15.
Oh man, that reminds me. The only liquor I have left is something that I Frankenstein together from like 3 sips of Seagram's 7
Oh
Crown.
no, dude.
And like a little bit of Bacardi and I think some Jack Daniels and maybe Jim Beam. It's all like in one bottle because it was like less than a shot of each left.
Dude.
So
Well, the liquor stores are still open. Those were essential.
I can't go with that.
Man, that's what Pat
You know
Lars
the
would call
people-
the goddamn it.
You know the people that are that hard up for liquor are not taking precautions.
No.
Is that an unfair
No, I've
overgeneralization?
seen the lines outside of liquor stores because there's a liquor store like right next to the grocery store I go to, and
Yeah.
whew, not the kind of people you want to be standing in line with during a quarantine.
Not
Let
the
me
kind
just
of
say
people that
that weed delivery in Portland is fantastic.
Oh yeah, should we put over the sponsor, Kush Cart?
Push carts.
They're not actually a sponsor.
Please sponsor us.
Maybe, hey, you never know.
Yeah.
Okay. So did we settle on a topic? We were kicking around stories on the road, how we broke into wrestling. Is there anyone-
Yep. That's
I know the topic that's off limits, so
Oh, God.
feel free to
Oh,
feel free to
no,
discuss
no.
as you see fit.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
yeah. Let's talk about racism.
I think we briefly touched on the socio-economic and political policies of Bugs Bunny.
Right. Yeah. You know what? Maybe we'll segue from a road story into that.
Well,
Let's jump.
we're either gonna do road
jump
stories
straight
or why we got in the
into-
business or both. I don't. Who cares? Both? Why not? There's no script here.
Now let's jump right into the topic that Richard definitely wants to cover. Racism in professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's fucking bad.
Yeah, of course. Have you ever come across racism and thought, hey, that's cool?
I mean, Carlos Mencia has made a whole career out of it for quite a while.
Dude, guy's got some...
Yeah. when racism is a way to look back at a parody of the opinion of racism, then I think it's an acceptable topic, right?
Okay,
When you're
that's
when you're
not really
looking at,
racism, though.
I'm sorry, what's that?
That's not really racism, though.
No, but it's racism is the underlying theme that has driven both examinations.
Sure. Doesn't that fall under satire, though?
Absolutely, but what is satire? Racism is literally satire transformed into almost into a way of life, if you think about it, because the ideas behind racism are completely outlandish.
What?
Right?
What are you talking about?
The DNA string is the same, right? There's certain ways that this species is put together, regardless of what how much melanin we have dedicated into our cells, right?
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to play devil's advocate.
Thank goodness, because I'll tear into that one. Speaking of which, speaking of racism, have you noticed how Flex is in here?
Oh, hold on, man. He just didn't want to come on. You've been in the group chat. Don't fucking put this on me.
Flex has been trying to join. He's just not technically savvy.
Oh, that's cool.
That I don't think he wants to
And
risk his career on hanging out with all of us live.
I can't say I blame him.
Yeah. He has to maintain a certain.
He's the only one here with any kind of prospects, so like I don't blame him at all.
I just noticed this. Why is Joe Exotic peeking up behind Willie's window?
I can't tell you, man. I might just be fucking with the software and.
He's creeping me out, man.
Didn't Willie just have a steak? Maybe he's going after that steak.
Oh.
Walmart steak.
Do you have a padlock at the tip of that snake?
Oh, hold on a second.
Hey.
I think that's just white trash.
Hey, Will, your mic isn't working.
No, it's working.
We're not hearing him.
Yeah, that's how you know it's
Yeah,
working.
yeah, it's working.
That's weird. It was working when we were all solo.
Hit that closer angle there, Will. Get all up close on that.
Well, that's fucked up.
So no spicy.
Yeah, it should all be. It's something on his end because all of our stuff is coming from one source.
No, Marcus Jones here is saying that Willie's mic is
Yeah,
off.
but I mean, I don't really listen to the chat when it comes to technical stuff because usually like it's just people not talking. But yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Oh, so Spicy's gone now.
Yes. Maybe he fucking popped out and he's gonna come back in.
Okay.
It's
Hello?
okay. We're good.
There he is.
It's me, Jesus Christ. How are you?
You're trying to derail our totally professional podcast.
Oh,
Too bad a mime is a terrible thing to waste.
oh.
And hi, folks.
I stole it. I admit it. That was Mel Brooks.
I mean, if you're gonna steal from somebody, it might as well be Mo Brooks.
Also, I just want to say that Richard's right. Racism has taught me one thing. It's that a lot of white people put raisins in their macaroni salad, and what the fuck is up with that?
Ugh.
Yeah. Color me confused here, but what is macaroni salad?
Oh, don't worry. That's some white
I think
people
you meant
shit.
potato salad. Spicy.
With macaroni.
I mean both. I've seen it.
Macaroni
I felt
salad
it.
is a specifically white person thing.
Yeah.
It's,
So you might as well put raisins in it. It's already
yeah,
ruined.
I mean, putting raisins in anything kind of fucking ruins it, to be honest.
Sure shit, I know.
Not oatmeal cookies, and I'll die on that cross.
Okay, but oatmeal cookies suck to begin with, so like.
Hey, hold on. Hey, fuck all that.
Okay,
shit.
Boomer,
Oatmeal
settle down.
are awesome.
Oh!
It looks like Darian Lopez has joined and said hello.
Hello, Darian.
Yes, I'm seeing Tommy. I'm seeing Lance.
Nice.
Oh, wait a minute. We have an ugly sighting here.
Okay, Google,
Ooh.
stop.
The big
I don't know.
ugly?
I don't know why when I said okay, Boomer.
No, only the little
But
ugly.
like it started my Google Home to play something, and that was really weird. It like started playing a fucking song, and I was like,
So, I know we had topics to discuss, but now, how about oatmeal craisin cookies?
no.
No.
No, I know I'm the only guy on the side of this aisle. I'm going to be on this side of the aisle, but that's okay. I don't need you guys. I don't need anybody.
Hey man,
What's a craisin?
I just need. It's a cranberry raisin.
A dehydrated cranberry.
Yes.
man.
Okay.
If it's something that a retirement home can all agree on, it's probably something that you shouldn't be fucking dying on the cross
Dude,
for.
hey, wait a minute. I didn't say anything about prunes.
Yeah, you buy that stuff for kids, man. Come on. I know this stuff.
I guess oatmeal cookies are like the compromise if you got a kid who really wants a cookie but you still want him to be healthy.
Nah, fuck that kid. Give him a full cookie.
Like you want him to be happy but not that happy. Like fuck your chocolate chips, kid. Here's a fucking oatmeal cookie. It's good for you. Ah, fuck.
I think that's the compromise to myself.
Well, fair.
Like, if I trick myself into thinking, hey, I could still be a body guy and eat oatmeal cookies.
Fair. I mean, you're the only one. You're the only one in this fucking entire group who's almost had abs. So.
Whoa. I've had abs.
I like to say I have ab. All right.
Oh, hold on. I see here that Mr. Lopez has said that I'm wearing a nice costume. Wow. My heritage is not a
Yeah,
costume.
man. You know his grandfather was fucking Zorro.
Oh, good lord.
Zorro was actually based on a black man.
Hey, today I learned.
No shit, really?
I mean, you know, his name is Darian Lopez, so I think it's actually, like, I don't want to assume, but it's possibly your shared heritage.
Oof.
Perhaps.
Could be. Yeah.
Quizás, if you would.
So, Richard, did you want to dive deeper into racism in wrestling, or did you just want to say it sucks?
I just want to say it sucks. That's it. That's it. It's terrible.
Actually, I got it. What is a time that you experienced racism on wrestling? Easily.
See, this is why when there's 4 white people in the panel, I didn't want to talk about this.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I can let's tell a story here about being in a certain locker room where some gentleman came walking in a little bit late, and the promoter turns to the gentleman and goes, "Oh, of course those people are late."
Oh.
And I remember just saying, and it just kind of stifled the room where I was like, casual racism. And it just, the room just got that ugly mutter to it, right? Can't say that kind of stuff, man. But we deal with it. We see it all the time.
Yeah, it's just one of the many uglinesses going on in wrestling locker rooms.
Yeah, it's a place where creativity, right? You would think that the creative kernel would push away those kind of people, but at times it attracts it. Just pro wrestling itself attracts those people both in and in the locker room and on the other side of the curtain. They're just there, just exist.
Yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest, pro wrestling has a history of perpetuating stereotypes. So there are people who can't really see the forest for the trees and just think, I don't know, the Japanese are sneaky, Samoans have hard heads, like I don't know, they buy into the wrestling stereotypes. That's the
Oh,
only-
and buying them, they sell them. They make it a commodity. It's a commodity.
Yeah, you
Right.
know, in the defense of Asian pro wrestlers, back when Ethan HD didn't want to kill me, him and I devised a way to rename the Pearl Harbor spot to the 9/11 spot.
Yeah.
So it's no longer racist against Japanese people. It's, I mean,
So in the 9/11 spot, does the manager just fall down
Yeah.
by himself?
Oh god!
Did I kill Eric with that one?
No, I have to go.
hey, good plan. I fucking made sure I did too.
Because my kids are super racist. I didn't want them.
Come and fucking throwing slurs.
I mean, we
You
all
got-
remember WWE in the early 90s, WWF? They started rebranding guys who had already made names for themselves, and every single one of them was like a racial stereotype. It was so dumb. Guys who didn't need those gimmicks.
I remember them being job like occupations mostly, but I suppose there was who was it that they brought in to be Freddie Joe Floyd?
I don't even remember that.
Yeah,
Was it Tracy
Vaguely.
Smothers? I want to say it was Tracy Smothers, but I could be wrong.
could have been. I'm
they-
talking about like Tony Atlas becoming Sal Santana being rebranded as the Matador.
Ugh.
Okay, you're on. Yeah, those are, boy.
I mean, those are guys who were established,
Uh-huh.
and they could have literally been any other gimmick.
Right.
And yet,
I remember when Flex had was doing that Stone Hendricks, like he got put into that dark stable and he was talking in tongues and whatnot. I remember at the TV show going, "So are you just a version of Kamala and Saba Simba just mashed together?"
Papa Shango.
Papa Sh- yeah, just these ridiculous characters that have no basis in reality. They're clearly a overt humor, right? They look at how they were used in those positions, right? They came out and you look at the crowd, and even the crowd was confused at first.
I mean,
Yeah,
that was
you
kind
know.
of commonplace at WC, though. Like,
Yeah,
every other week there'd be some new fucking storyline that nobody asked for or wanted, and they just be forced to deal with it for a month and be like, well, at least it's only for this taping, because it's sure as fuck not going to follow into anything else.
It's only for this month because it's a poll.
Yeah. Dude, like, working those shows is hard enough. I can't imagine being there as a fan. Like, oh.
Well,
Ugh,
there
those
weren't many
poor
of them.
bastards. Just sitting on those hard benches in either a super hot or super freezing building, waiting for us, right? Waiting for something to happen, and then then literally being able to know which way things are gonna.
Totally telegraphed every fucking time.
Yeah. Telegraph
It
bad.
wasn't always like that, though, because when I started coming to WC shows, just the house show, mind you, I never fucking went all the way up to Portland for the TV tapings before I started training. Like, it was decent. Like, above what I expected for, like, a local indie.
Must have been when Grappler was
Absolutely.
booking.
I remember I
Yeah.
was a mark for you, I was a mark for Tubbs. Fucking...
Well, sure. No.
I was totally into Kevin Cross for the, 5 minutes he was around.
Of course.
Yeah.
oh,
That guy's a
Yeah.
monster.
And I was like, what the fuck is Joey Ryan doing in Salem, Oregon? And the answer was, not much for not very long.
I'm sure he was asking himself
Mhm.
the same thing. Well, I guess we kind of segued, so to speak, to how we broke into wrestling. Or Billy, at
Yeah.
least you did. I guess we can keep that ball rolling if add more to that story. I remember when you started coming to shows. When I met you, you were tiny and weird looking, and you were there with a couple, like a girl and maybe one.
It was
other
usually
person?
just one girl, a girl who I'm hanging out with again now. Weirdly enough.
Oh yeah. And I don't remember. Were you both?
Oh
aspiring
no, she
wrestlers, or
would
was it just-
she would die if she got anywhere near a ring. She was fragile as fuck. It was always me. It's like she wouldn't
Yeah.
have given a fuck about
And
wrestling if she hadn't been dating me at the time.
Sure.
But
and of course, you come up and you tell me you want to be a wrestler, and I'm sure I tried to be nice, but I'm sure you could smell the sarcasm or the.
not really, man. Because like I was still in like a mind frame where like, oh, all these wrestlers are real cool guys. Like I talked to Flex on my first day there too, because he wasn't wrestling. He was in his singlet selling fucking snow cones.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah, and I was just like, "Are you a wrestler?" And he got mad, and I'm like, "Dude, first show. I'm sorry." But he's fucking huge, so I'm like, of course he's got to be a fucking wrestler, right? He's in fucking geese.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Marcus was running camera on that show before he was working because he remembers me taking Joey Ryan's lollipop and putting it in my fucking mouth and getting a pop.
Wow,
It's
that's
totally
good.
well, whatever, dude. Like, fast forward 3 years and I'm fucking doing 69 spots with Ricky and Eddie. So like, least gay thing I've done to get a pop, honestly.
I don't know what that's like. All I did was real
You
professional
kissed me
wrestling.
on the mouth multiple times. But
But yeah,
I don't remember that.
I really should apologize to Billy because it's one of those things where like when you're wrestling for a while, probably every one guy who comes up to you and is like, "I'm going to be a wrestler too,"
sure.
and I don't try to fucking like shatter these guys' ego, or it's hard to just like, oh yeah, sure. After like,
No, dude, I feel you. It was like
yeah.
it was 5 years and 45 pounds ago, and like I
Yeah.
spent enough time at the fucking academy that when dudes came in, I was just like, for like weeks, because I saw so many dudes come in and just wash out immediately.
Oh, dude, like not even 2 weeks
Yeah.
worth. They only made it to like 2 sessions.
And
Done.
you were way
That's
nicer
right.
to these guys than I ever was, Will. Like you'd at least try to like make a connection with these guys, and like I tried to carry the shit that Marcus did for me, where I was of course the fucking black sheep and nobody thought I was gonna make it, but Marcus kind of stuck up for me the whole time, and I tried to do that over and over for all these dudes coming in, and I always hitched my boat to the fucking worst guys, like fucking Isaac was one of them. Sean Rudy was another one. I never.
Mighty
Well,
Bulls.
those kids. Now, to be fair, those kids both
Yeah,
had prom.
Steve.
The Maestro had the most promise I ever seen in
I
anybody.
think I said 4 whole words to the fucking Maestro.
Who was the cat that came in and Izzy pinned?
Oh,
Like, shoot pinned.
I don't remember.
Oh, good lord.
I don't remember that at all.
You know, because
What?
when I'm doing the, so we had a class, and one of the things I like to do in class is to push, shoot wrestling, or at least, hey, can you at least get off the mat? Will you struggle? Are you cool with someone smashing on you, putting that pressure on you?
Right.
Are you just going to at least struggle instead of just lay there, right? And I remember, we start with one person laying down, the other person takes a pinning situation, and then we're like, okay, struggle. And I remember he just like twisted, and just laid there. And it's Izzy, who's lovely lady, no wrestling sense, that has no physical grasp of wrestling sense at that time. And she was holding him on the mat and couldn't get up.
Izzy actually
Maybe.
at this point could probably fuck some dudes up because she's been doing some judo shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. She's been, she sends me some videos, or I see some videos online, and we talk back and forth about her technique and how to properly generate power and whatnot. She's hitting a sandbag as a new person, no clue of how to condition her hands or legs.
Izzy also at Squalorback Girl on Instagram if you need any art done. All these little cute caricatures at the bottom of her stream are done by her.
She
Yeah.
made my T-shirt.
Yeah, mine too. Both of mine.
Yeah, she's pretty fantastic when it comes to art design, layout, camera work.
photography, video.
The bee's knees.
Yeah.
Let's everybody keep going. I'm gonna circle back around to how I got back into wrestling because I got a video to download. So you guys just keep
Oh,
going.
yeah.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
All right.
So, you want to do Willie? You want to do Tubbs?
I got it. I can go first.
You just kind of rolled in the door one day.
A fat joke from Tubbs? Holy shit.
Who else is more qualified?
Fair. Absolutely fair.
This guy gets down to like 210 and he's gonna start throwing shots.
I was researching it before. I was trying to find like a school. I was about to head to Georgia for the WWWW4A. I swear to God, that was the place it was
Jesus
called.
Christ, dude. All the way
Wow.
to Georgia?
They had the. Now that I know how the business works, they had this really good idea for 3 years for $999. And like that sounds great, but we all know that schools like to punish people for wanting to have a dream, and I love it. So I was also looking around, and then I came upon the website for the WCWC, and I looked, and there was a guy named the Patriot on there. He had a mask, he had red, white, and blue like spandex, and I told myself, "Wow, that's some real shit."
You're actually smoking.
So I called.
Bigfoot in that red, white, and blue singlet, wasn't it?
I email, and I'm pretty sure I talked to RJ, the man, Wrestle Post app,
Hey.
Yeah, RJ. Cut out.
and he was like, "Yeah, man, come down on Monday. We have practice at this time, this place," and I was like, "Sweet." So it was on 25th Street, the best training building because it could fit the rings, it could fit people, it had water fountain, it had the shit.
Ew.
Came in, met eyes with Baden, knew if I had to fight him, I would die. Morty was there too for once. I think Jay came in late that day, and Baden gave me the up down, told me that this is really tough stuff, said a lot of people don't make it, and I was like, I totally get that because this isn't meant for the average Joe. This is just meant for the exotic Joes.
Yeah, contrary to popular opinion, wrestling is not for everyone. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, no way at all.
Hard.
But wrestling is for any body type. That is what I would like to say
Yeah.
out loud because I have this big
Motherfucker,
belly.
you
but,
can do a moonsault. You're good.
I could do moonsault. I was there. But yeah, then he was like, first month is $90, so you don't feel like you're getting jibbed. Put in, did it. You gotta. I knew I had to start somewhere.
Yeah, I remember seeing you come in, and much like when Troy came in, I was just like, oh, great. This guy is gonna last. And you really, no. Okay. You made me really fucking eat my words there, man. Because
I strive sometimes on people thinking that I wouldn't be able to make it. And it's true fact, because for the most part, someone who looks like me probably
I
isn't
saw
gonna fucking make
at least
it.
4
Right.
dudes who look just like you not make it by the time you came in. So.
For sure. You know what's funny? I actually had a good feeling about you. First time I met Spicy.
He was nice. That was one thing. Like I immediately liked him,
That's
and I was like, God, I hope
Yes.
he makes it.
personable dude. And like, yeah, you're a bigger guy or a heavy guy, I guess, but you busted your ass and never complained.
Well, like that is what gets me sometimes is when people complain about training. It's called training. Like it fucking has to. Bro.
Right.
Yeah, the purpose of training is to protect other people's lives. Really.
Yes.
You know, behind everything that goes on in the ring, one missed punch, one misplaced slam, kick, anything wrong. You put a hold on it incorrectly. You bend the arm the wrong way, or fingers, or wrist, or ankles. Any of these be crippled, right?
Yeah, actually,
I don't know how many times we see people land on their heads, put their wrist down wrong, and break their arms. Just some of the simplest basic stuff. People will get hurt, so you train to not kill
came
people.
In, and it was the same day like we were working with that guy who was in the commercial, even though he only showed up for one day, and he got chokeslammed and landed on his fucking head, and the couple immediately were just like, maybe this isn't for us, and they just fucking took off immediately after that.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's why I'll never forget the Maestro. We came in, he was having a hard time doing squats and, like crunches, and I have a hard time with crunches too, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But then we make tiger rolls, and we were using the wrestling pads on the concrete the way it should be, like dirty old behemoths we are. And he goes, you see him do the arc, and then he just lawn darts, dude, and fucking folds up like a $2 goddamn outside chair, and it was killing me.
These people don't have a mental image of the Maestro, so let me try to paint the picture for you. Imagine Willie's fucking hairline, but on a head the size of a fucking, like, 2 fucking gallon jugs stacked on top of each other, and maybe a 120-pound body frame, if I'm being generous. He looked like the kind of guy who is like, who came straight off a wrestling message board and was like, I'm gonna be a pro wrestler. Showed up and just landed on his fucking double wide forehead every time he tried to do a roll.
Oh, man. But he cut a promo that made me, I swear to God, come a little bit. It was that.
It was one of the best goddamn promos we've ever seen in the entirety. It's like, I wish I could remember it better, but I think I went outside and smoked with Marcus that day, so I can't fucking...
All I can think about for the Maestro was, I'm willing to bet that guy sat at home practicing that promo, practicing it, and to this day, one of his greatest achievements is when he's like, I got people to cheer for what I said. Because I think there were, a dozen of us there, and we were just like, wait, you were just crash landing on your face. You don't know your left foot from your right foot, but you have this intricate, laid out conversation and a name.
Man, it was a good fucking promo. Yeah.
It was not off the cuff. There was no way that was.
It had to be. It was the most articulated Ultimate Warrior has ever been.
I have a symphony of pain.
Like he had phrases that you knew that he would go to his mom and be like, Mom, does this sound cool? Okay, I'm gonna keep that one. It was insane.
Hey man, moms are a great frame of reference, okay?
Sure.
Got quite a few people trying to look at us, you guys.
What's that?
Jared there, Jenny Boyle, Mr. Ooh La La, Brian Lee.
Mr. Brian Lee. Hey Eric, cool Spider-Man shirt. It's Venom, dude.
Yeah. Spider-Man first, technically.
Shoot to kill.
Although I guess technically Spider-Man wore it first. Well, I guess for that matter, it could be a Spider-Woman shirt. Who knows?
Yeah, that's even truer.
If you guys look, you'll see that Bryce Brannigan, one of the greatest WCW champions to ever live, has
hell yeah,
has joined up.
A legend.
Oh wow, we're in the presence of.
I love that we were. I
wonder
love
if you saw the previous shows.
With was it Bryce Brannigan versus Troy Prescott?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Billy, do you have that picture? Can you eventually put that up sometime?
Just give me a moment. Keep talking, and I'll.
Hey, Byron!
Finest French cuisine, Le Coquemaux.
Yeah, but Will did good when he came in. He put in the effort, and I remember we were running him ragged, intentionally running.
You see a fat guy come in,
right?
and the first thing you want to
do is
make him puke.
Great Britain spots? Yes.
Oh yeah, the
Oh
fucking,
yeah,
we did the British flag on you like
Oh,
3
yeah,
times.
Holy well,
yeah.
It has to do those. That is what I consider hazing. If you don't haze someone to see if they can still make it a little bit farther, then it's all wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
have
it's not hazing in the sense that we're burning you with cigarettes or making you wear stupid
No, we're-
costumes.
we're
right.
with a
That's
fork.
not hazing it. That's technically abuse,
Well,
my friend.
hazing is kind of abuse. Anyway, I'm gonna switch you guys over to the live view for a second, just so you can. Oh, well, you can't see it right. There you go. That's
Oh, I like how
Yeah,
when it
the-
got there, it
the
grew.
career highlight of Bryce Brannigan,
That's
ladies and gentlemen.
just. I love that Troy is holding it for him,
Yeah.
and Bryce is
Well,
using
I mean,
both hands to get it.
You gotta.
Troy's got
Well,
the
that-
girth on him, man.
He's a
And they
two-handed
pinned him down for longer than 3 seconds.
Oh boy, what was going on here? Is that
Marcus is in the
Yeah,
corner.
well,
yeah? Marcus is in the corner from something.
you know, it's
Right.
WCWC, so he knew how to get booked, and he just thought that's how you fucking do the business.
Oh no!
That bridge is so burned, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call false news on that because you didn't find Bryce Brannigan on the internet.
So, I hate to admit this, probably while Bryce is still in here, but there is a fan page for Bryce Brannigan that,
Yes.
that I started.
Fantastic.
It was incredible. And, like, for a minute, we had more likes on that than the Pearl Brothers fan page. Oh, I'm an asshole.
Seen a question here. If
Oh,
one of the bigger promotions
that
wanted
question-
you, what? Go ahead, Eric.
Boy, that's a hell of a would you rather. Hey, Cool Heels, if one of the bigger promotions wanted you, which would you choose, WWE or AEW?
AEW.
AEW.
I would go AEW because I know Tony Khan would lay down a fat
Yeah,
contract.
more money, more creative
Just the
control,
roles.
more guys I want to work. It's
No, I don't want to work in
No, me
either
either.
company.
But like
Nope.
if I had
Neither.
to choose one or the other, AEW by a fucking mile, because like
Absolutely.
it's just a better place to work.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, if I went to WWE, I would either end up as Big Daddy V2, the Bronson Booger 2, Shockmaster, the Return, Akeem, Earthquake. I'm just telling you now, once you make it to that round position, you're not
And that would
making
be
it
such
out.
a waste of you because you're like the best comedy wrestler I've ever seen. So
I would totally do Akeem, though. If I could redo the life of Akeem, give
the
me a
fucking- the
motherfucking
fucking Akeem
beat,
dance.
get me slick.
Oh, come on. You could be Sheamus's little brother, man. That'd be
Shameless?
awesome.
Yes.
Fuck Shamler. It's just Stifler, but he's Irish.
Ugh.
Let's see what do we got.
Oh,
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Byron. Thanks for asking.
Let's stick the course here, kids. Who wants to go next on your experience?
Mr. Sincere, how did you break into wrestling?
Let's
What's
see.
your story?
Who did you break into wrestling? Ah,
So I wanted to get into wrestling when I was young, and I was pretty small. Like I'm not a large guy, right? I'm 5'9", and I think at that age I was 120
Are you 5'9"?
pounds. I was a super. Yeah. Who
Yeah,
knows?
probably.
In
Because like
shoes,
I'm
maybe.
5'11", and I like kind of tower over you. That's my own fucking insecurity, dude. Don't worry about yourself.
Let's move on.
You can call me 5'6". My size doesn't judge me by my size, do you? Yeah.
Wow.
So I wanted to get in when I was younger. This is back in the 90s. So I had to send $150 and a videotape to a school, and it was back in New Jersey or something, to get in. You know, I went through one of the dirt rags. It was just like, oh yeah, I want to go train there, right? And I got my video and my money back, and there was a nice letter that came with it, just like, you're far too small, right? And I think it was just barely 17 or 18 at the time. You're far too small. Maybe Mexico. You know, you gotta beef up, yada yada. And at that point, I was already doing a bunch of martial arts and whatnot. And I was like, there's weight divisions in combat. There's weight divisions in sport combat, I should say. So I'll just stick with that. And I did that for years and years. That was it. And it was when I was 37 or 38. One of my buddies was like, hey, let's go to a wrestling show. So we went to the wrestling show, and all the guys that were at the wrestling show that we'd gone with were all just huge, burly powerlifters, all gay.
Oh, yeah, I remember the story.
Just, yeah. So they're all gay. So, and who cares, right? That
Sure.
makes no difference. But the fans interacted with that group. The wrestlers interacted with the group because they would always come and they would take up, 8 seats. They're just huge guys. And one of the guys turned to me and he goes, hey, man, I want to be a wrestler. And I think he was in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. Big dude. And I was like, okay, cool. Good for you. Awesome. And he goes, I don't want to go try out. Will you want to come try out with me? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And so I just blew it off, right? I was like, I don't want to get into that again. Because it's still that mentality of you're far too small. And I'm older at this point, right? I'm in my late 30s. And it had come down. We were at a comic book convention in Albuquerque, and on one of the days, I was hosting a booth for Rocky Horror, and then the next day, I was hosting a booth for the SCA, which is the Armored Combat gimmick. So the wrestlers had come to the Rocky Horror show, and then the next day, he saw me fighting guys, and he came up to me and he goes, "Have you ever thought about being a pro wrestler?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm far too small." Right? It's definitely not something that I can get into, and I'm far too old. Don't worry about it. He goes, no, you should come try out. And after about a couple weeks, I was like, fine, I'll try out. And I went to a training with Mosh Pit Mike and Ray Basuda, and it was, I don't know, June or July, 100+ degrees, and I remember I handed over like $250 for a tryout. Right? So if you last the tryout, you can go on, and part of that money gets applied
Good business
to your
plan
month
in hindsight.
Your dues.
Because like the
Yeah,
guys that we came in
Yeah.
for like $90 for the first month, god damn, wish we could have gotten more money out of them.
Right. So I remember I'm there. I hand over this $250, and I'm looking at all these guys, and they're heavy, right? They're heavy set. I'm like, man, I play judo 3 times a week. I fight SCA. How crazy can this workout get? And it was pretty intense. Man, those guys drove me, because I didn't think any of them could do it. Because I'm looking at them, I was like, no, there's no way these guys do these drills, right? As they're telling me how it's going to go, I was like, there's no way these guys get through that. And I remember I'm in there, and I'm just chugging along, and these guys have on smiles. And they're just like, hey, whatever. They're running, and they're doing jumping jacks and all that good jazz. And we hit about the hour mark, and Masha's like, okay, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back for another set. And me being the way I train and whatnot, I turned to him and was like, is it all right if I go over there and puke? I'll be right back. I'm not leaving. I'm just puking. And he's like, yeah, sure. So I went over, kind of dry heaved, came back, and was like, all right, guys, I'm ready for round 2. And they just looked at me. And they're just like, and I was like, yeah, are we going to do round 2? Because I don't want to waste money, and I've already spent this much time, right? Yeah. I'm already trying to prove myself. So they just looked at me, and they're like, nah, you're fine. You're fine. Because really no one wanted to do it. It was almost 100 degrees outside, right? Yeah. We want to keep doing this craziness just to break in the guy, just to make him run off. They knew I wasn't going to leave. And then for the first, 6 months of training, I beat the hell out of myself. And Mosh had this great way of making me want to keep going, even though I didn't. He would get kind of a little condescending at times. He goes, you want to put a pin in it? We can put a pin in it. Oh, we can just put a pin in it. You want to put a pin? You want to go home? We can put a pin in it. And when I would get frustrated with something, I couldn't do something in a particular way, he would always do that until I just got to the point where we're running these drills and he sees me getting tired, and I'm like, don't even fucking say it. Right? don't. I know I'm gonna fuck this up a lot until I get it down. Right? But it was good. I'm super happy with how I got introduced, how I came in. It was later in life, so c'est la vie. But I think Mosh, Ray, Rocky Panasco, Thunder, Super Chaos, some of those guys. Victor Vallejo, who was Sweet Baby Dick. Magic would help. There's a lot of good guys that came through and would always help. But mostly I would see Mosh and Ray. They were great. Went on the road with them pretty quickly to, carry bags, set up rings, do all that good jazz. Great experience.
You remember, Spicy, you remember those warm-ups we used to do at the academy? Right at the start?
Depends. Which ones? Was it to make someone leave?
It was
or to
really
not?
kind of the standard ones from when we started. It was like it was the same thing twice over. It was like 50 jumping jacks, but of the 3 count, so it was 150 jumping jacks.
Oh yeah, and then we're doing like the 75 windmills. Oh
50
fuck!
sit-ups, 50 fucking push-ups, and then we'd get through all that shit, and then we'd do it all over again after like a 1-minute rest period. That was that was some brutal shit. Brutal. And I came in the first fucking few days completely gassed, but like my mentality was just like I just got to do it. I just got to fucking do it. I've been wanting to do this my whole fucking life. I just gotta fucking do it.
Just continue doing the best you can.
I only started working out like 3 months before I started training, and like I thought I had like a decent kind of like thing going on, and then I go through my rolls and shit, and the grappler was there that day because fucking of course he was. I have to have my fucking first wrestling day in front of the fucking grappler. And I think I'm doing fucking well. I'm in shape. I'm going to the gym every day, and he's like, "Brother, you go to the gym?" And
damn,
if this was an anime, my face would crack like a piece of fucking glass. I was like, ah!
No one ever asks if you go to the gym because you look good.
I was like, I've worked so hard. I felt like I was ready. I was not ready. But
damn. Just ask Grappler to grab a double wrist lock and see what he does.
It was just, that's the advice I give anybody who starts training. It's just like, you're going to run your head into a whole lot of brick walls, and either the wall's going to give or your head's going to give. One or the other.
Yeah. And you should. That should be how it is. Too often nowadays we see guys who come in, they train a little bit, they cry doing squats, like literal tears from doing squats.
Yeah.
Just want to half-ass everything, and I'm just like,
yeah,
man, are you trying to kill me?
The whole way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you think about it. Some of us are wrestling. If we're wrestling almost every weekend, right? Sometimes 2 or 3 times in the weekend. And you got these guys who are like, well, why aren't I on top? How come Vince McMahon doesn't call me? I was like, you can't even do a left roll without stumbling, and you can't even get up, right?
Right.
We're talking about the Condor.
Just in general, we've had these guys that'll come in and, where I've gone to other places, and, I like to show up a little bit early, maybe do a couple training drills, figure out how the ring works, figure out how some of the guys there work if I don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
And too often I've gone places where guys much younger than me that look like they're in fantastic shape, they're ready to go, just got nothing. Like 2 left feet, turning their backs the wrong way to the rope, everything on the wrong side, just all sorts of stuff. Uh-oh.
I tried to write 3-2-1 training battle. 3-2-1 battle training is a fucking joke on my phone and just kind of flash it in front of but it didn't work. So 3-2-1 battle training is a fucking joke. Anyway. But it's not training anymore, so.
Well, Ethan took that over for a while. It was going pretty good. Who was on?
Yeah,
Ethan
Coach Steele.
trainer.
Coach Steele. He was training before that. And,
Steele.
Fine, Ethan trained the advanced class, and, I've got my own shit with Ethan, but there's a lot of hand-holding there, and there's a lot of people who should not have made it through, who ended up in the business, and we can't get rid of them now.
I'm not a fan of the idea of saying that people don't belong in the business. I think there's a place for people. There's plenty of jobs to do.
Yeah, fair, but not in the ring.
Plenty of jobs, right? I mean, I'm sure that there are hundreds of people who say, I do not belong in the ring. You don't belong in the ring.
But there's also the case we had at WC where the mentally challenged dude had his money taken when he absolutely could have been included. He could have been he works at BCW now. He takes gimmicks and he runs them back. He's still involved, and he's a fucking great guy, but he should not have been allowed in the ring.
I remember having that conversation, Eric and I. Yep. That was.
Hey, Widowmaker, how you doing?
We confronted the promoter about that, and he's tried to get him to give that kid his money back, and it didn't work.
That was kind of the breaking point for a lot of us to get out of there, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was told later on that she was like, yeah, I gave him some of it back, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what did or didn't happen. I just know that when I saw that kid try to get up towards the ring after failing miserably at exercises, I'm looking at him and I'm like, I'm not here to judge. I don't, everyone develops differently. This is just how our DNA unfolds, right? And I'm like, but if we're taking this man's money, this human's money, we're doing him a great disservice.
That is my feeling as well.
Right.
If we wanted to, if this gentleman wanted to train just for the experience, just to feel like a wrestler or whatever, that's cool. That's totally fine. But the part where the promoter thought it was okay to take money was disgraceful.
Questionable business choices. I remember we were definitely talking about how much Carney runs in the industry still, and that was terrible. And I remember when we were over at BCW and I see him and he gets up in the ring, right? He just walks in the ring because apparently they let him train or something. And I pulled him aside and I was like, hey man, you probably don't want to get in there. I'm not in charge here, but you probably don't want to get in there.
And this was a guy who had traumatic brain injury. He wasn't born mentally disabled. He fell off of a deck or something and hit his head when he was young. And if he would have hit his head again, he would have legitimately had serious problems or died. And I watched this kid do a fucking tope into the ring and land on his fucking head multiple times, and nobody stopped him. I'm just like, I mean, I don't have authority here, but what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Yeah, if you recall, when I was dealing with him,
Absolutely.
I would not let him
Rightfully
in the ring,
so.
right? Or I would clear everybody out, put him in, and it's like, okay, you're going to roll with me, right? I mean, at least I'm not going to be get the fuck out of here, right? But we're going to roll on the mats, and now that everybody is tired, everybody's getting their water, you're only going to get in here for a minute and roll, right? Because just the whole, I'm certain his entire life he was excluded from stuff.
He actually is a Special Olympics athlete,
right?
He does stuff. It just, wrestling is not a place for a Special Olympics athlete.
Right.
Especially something you're not supposed to. I mean, that's going to happen.
Right. And I'm not saying that people with disabilities can't wrestle. There's plenty of them.
Gregory Iron?
Deaf. Yeah, Gregory. Yeah, absolutely. We have people missing legs. We have people with muscular issues, people who are half blind, with people who are deaf, right?
Stan Hansen.
Right. Stan Hansen, yeah, case in point. But this is a person who was not 100% aware of all of his faculties. He had I cannot say that he had 100% his motor skills.
Right.
And we saw him do some weird stuff. We're not...
Right, just trying to do sit-ups.
I mean, me and Spicy witnessed some stuff that, we didn't really want to even lock up with the guy. But, we didn't hold it against him. It was funny in context, but, it wouldn't be appropriate to talk about on the podcast because it just seems like we'd be making fun of the differently abled, which we don't do here.
That's wrong.
Yeah, Chikari knows the guy.
Oh, yeah. He's not a terrible guy or anything. He's just, he does not belong in the ring.
Right.
So, in general, when you're talking about, these guys that are training, that are coming in and training, you would have people that would come in, train a little bit, and, one or two practices, and then a promoter or another wrestler will be like, "Hey, come on, let's get in the ring and let's have a match," and it's done. You try to train a guy after that, a guy who works a match, right? And not, I'm talking in front of a crowd, gets in, works a match in front of a crowd, has no clue, no idea what's going on. All they believe they hear are the fans, right? All they no, not at all.
Those of us who actually can hear the fans did not hear them.
Yeah, I heard them get popcorn.
Right, and quite honestly, it's not a fact of you stink. That regardless of what their style is or how they're coming along in the learning, it's a matter of safety.
Yep.
These guys who don't know what they're doing, being completely unsafe.
So, we got Tubbs and Eric left.
Oh yeah, Tubbs, you go ahead.
All right. Well, I've told you guys some of these stories, so I think we briefly mentioned it a couple weeks ago too. Folks watching, I didn't get into wrestling the right way. I was young, didn't know what the right way was, and had some people that were in for themselves taking advantage of a lot of us guys who didn't know, the score.
Class.
Yeah, and I didn't know until later how bad it really was. Basically, the first independent show I ever saw was in my hometown. After that, the guy announced something about training professional wrestlers. So I talked with him, found out the When, Where's, What, started training. Supposedly, this guy had trained with Scott D'Amore. Found out that was incorrect. That was his story, and he stuck to it. And Byron, who was on here earlier on the chat, he could vouch for some of this. But basically, supposedly, he was learning stuff at Scott D'Amore's and then taking it to us trainees and teaching us. Found out later that all of it was nada. Said he had trained some with Dan Severn, because he has a training facility in Michigan. Found out he bought some ring pads from Dan Severn. And I know this because I asked Dan Severn myself. After a while, when I started to smarten up, I started to make some phone calls. A few months into our training, he brought in somebody to take over that actually did have some legit training. He never finished the training. So he wasn't a graduate of a school, but he could prove, there were guys that said he was training in, I think, Indiana, and he did at least know some of what he was talking about. Didn't train psychology, and he didn't train anything about any high spots, because in his mind, he said you didn't have to do high spots, which I agree with, but then he just didn't teach any of them, which I thought was kind of a weird way to do it.
Right.
But at least he knew enough to get us going to where we actually could do things without hurting anybody. And it wasn't until then when any of us actually started getting into the ring and doing much. But once everything went down and I started realizing what a con this promoter was, basically doing a lot of trainings in front of shows. There were a couple guys started putting me on their shows, despite whatever my limitations were. So before those shows, I would get in there with guys and say, show me something, teach me something. And then he was putting me in matches with guys who knew a lot more than I did and would teach me all kinds of things. I don't know if they'll ever see this, but Phil Monahan, Nitro, I appreciate you because you taught me a lot, directly and indirectly, on your shows. I also went to that Dan Severn school for about 6 weeks. I don't count him as a trainer because it wasn't a very long time, but he still taught me quite a bit on what somebody my size could get away with and look legit.
Hey, Tubbs.
Which is something nobody else...
Do you want this whenever it updates for you? Because, it's just sitting in the background in my fucking room. So, if you, for sentimental reasons, you want this shit, just let me know. I mean, I got a Gangrel back here for my own shit, so...
Nice.
But I don't know. I'll think about it. But Yeah, eventually, where, you know, I mean, I was always safe, but I just learned the wrong way, and it took me a while before I actually found some people who were willing to teach me the right way and get me to a point where I could actually do something in the ring that made sense, looked decent. Still took me a long time to find people to teach me psychology. Um, I mean, I didn't even know as much about ring psychology till I came out here, started working with Baden back in 2011. Appreciate you too, Baden. Everybody who was involved. I think Eric was there then. Um, God only knows what first impressions were of me when I walked.
Daddy Wolf Baden.
But yeah, I didn't have a legit school at first, and a lot of what I eventually learned was before shows and in the ring.
Yeah, boy. I guess you learned valuable lessons, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I guess that leaves me, eh? My story isn't terribly interesting. It's just it kind of starts the same way Richard, as the same way Richards does. I was a kid who was a big wrestling fan. I think we all were, right?
Hopefully.
As I was growing up, I was not a big guy. I think in high school I was like 5'7", like 140 pounds. So I kind of convinced myself that it wasn't in the cards, and so all through high school I did other things. I played music, I played in bands and stuff like that, because there's no size requirement for that.
Not true. All drummers are fat.
That's absolutely
That's
not true.
But I did that until I was like 24 or 25, and like I was in a couple bands, and they were both kind of floundering, and like I'm the kind of guy who is goal oriented when I give a shit about something. So I gave a shit about playing music, so I was really kind of frustrated just sitting around doing nothing, not really getting what I want out of it, you know? And then around that same time, I started to attend indie wrestling shows here in Portland, which I did not know were a thing. So shout out.
Great advertisement there.
Shout out to promoters that actually advertise.
Right.
Because I was fucking 25 years old before I even knew that there was independent wrestling in the town I lived in. Anywho, so and I've told you guys this, and I've told this fella this. But I went to my first indie show, and I was sitting there, I was enjoying myself, and I'll never forget. There was a wrestler in particular who I saw. Shout out to CJ Edwards, who's a fine worker, very good worker, but especially back then, this was 2008. So especially back then, he was small, very small. Like I would say he's like, back then he was like 5'6" and maybe 100.
So not much has changed.
Soaking wet. No. So I looked at him, and this was no slight on him, but I was watching him, I was like, oh, fuck this. It's like, this guy's doing it, I'm doing it. And it was the same thing, like, I'm sure, because I was there with my brother, and after we left, I was just like, I'm doing this. Like, like, I was doing the same thing that I've had hundreds of people come up to me like, oh, I'm going to be a wrestler too, and I'm sure it was met with the same, yeah, sure, that sort of thing. But the next day, I was pounding the pavement. I was looking online for places to get trained, that sort of thing, and I called. The first place I tried was the Playboy Buddy Rose School, and I don't remember who I talked to. It wasn't Buddy, and it wasn't Ed Wiskowski. But someone I talked to informed me, this was June, I want to say, and they informed me that they weren't coming back until the fall. They were taking a break through the summer, which now that I'm a worker, I know means they're never coming back. But but at the time, I was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll wait. And I kept going to indie shows, and I kept getting excited. And about a month of waiting for that, I was like, I can't wait anymore. So I went back to the internet, tried to find these places, and I happened upon the WCWC school page, and I hit them up. They had me come down, and we were doing training. And I'm kind of, I have certain anxieties. I think we all do, but I had this certain anxiety that training was going to be literal hell, like guys with pitchforks, cat of nine tails, like it was going to be torture. I had this built up in my head. So actually, when I went to my first day of training, it was hard physically, but like I was there for about 3 hours or so, and I got through, and I was like, that wasn't shit. Like, and I don't mean that as like to disregard the training, but again, in my mind, I had like hell on earth pictured in my head. So then I get through training, and it's fine. And so I kept going, obviously. And I was training with another guy who had a fantastic look. He was like 6'1" or 2, 220 pounds, 6-pack abs. He looked great. And the promoter was falling all over himself for this guy, right?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. now in hindsight, of course, right? And I didn't realize this at the time when I was training, but I was told later by my trainers that while the promoter was going gaga over this guy, all the trainers were telling the promoter to keep your eyes on me. And it's not to say that I'm fantastic. I'm 5'9", and I was like 165 when I trained. But it was just, what ended up happening was just like your classic, like it was like a movie kind of sort of thing. It was just the rabbit in the hare. Like this guy, the other guy I was training with, by all rights, should be a wrestler. Like he had everything. He was athletic. He looked good. Whatever, yada yada. But I went to every class. I never missed a class. I just worked and worked and worked, and then slowly but surely I caught up to this guy and passed him. And then sadly, the promoter burned this guy out, and he's now not even in the business. So it's just one of those things. Just real quick, if any students are listening to this right now and they're small, or they don't think they're being noticed or anything like that, the only person you have to the only person's expectations you have to live up to are your own. And I firmly believe that, and I could be a little psychotic about it, but I think putting stock in yourself is the way that you're going to achieve your goal. And
that's my vet talking.
Oh, and then I became all right. So,
yeah, you got to have stick-to-itiveness. I mean,
yeah.
When I got my start, I was 270 pounds, 300 pounds after a year or two. I was told over and over that I would never do anything. And I think of all the guys I trained with, there's only one other guy that's even still in the business that even lasted 5 years. It's hard, but you've got to want it. If you want it enough, if you work hard enough, you should, but it's hard work. It's not going to come to you. That's you see so many guys walk into that door and they think it's all just going to happen.
Yeah. I've seen. We've had guys come into the when we were training at WB. We had guys come in who played football at OSU. These guys were fantastic athletes, and they're like they thought they were just going to roll through training, and they were one and done.
The amount of fucking A-class athletes that I have outlasted in wrestling is incredible. And, like, you know, say what you want about me now. Back then, I was, like, 6 feet tall and 135 pounds. Yeah.
Wait, so you got shorter?
Spine compression.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah,
I feel that. I feel that in my neck.
But yeah, I'm like, you know, if I put my boots on, I'm like
Earl,
6'1". So let's just fave it. Anyway.
let's go with that.
But I've put on like 45 pounds, and I've gotten a little bit shorter because my spine is probably incredibly compressed, and I am too fucking poor to see a chiropractor. But like these dudes who played football or like
sounds
are
alright.
fucking legitimately jacked as fuck, just never cut it because they don't like getting hit, or they have better prospects. Really. No.
There's that, of course, yeah.
Jeremy brought in that one. The kid was like 19,
Oh, I remember this
maybe
kid,
20.
the fucking football player, right?
Yeah, he was going to the gym all the time. He was well built. He had muscle structure that was not going to fail on him. And the dude made it one day trying to get out of headlocks, and
Yep.
that was it. He was done.
It's always the first bump. You can tell most of these guys when they take their first bump if they're gonna stick it out or if they're gonna fuck off, because
Yeah.
It's
that
the
bump
deal.
is either
It's always the
oh
deal.
that's not as bad as I expected it to be, or oh my god this is real. It's,
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to dovetail one personality trait that you've got to have to dovetail onto what Tubb said about stick-to-itiveness. You gotta be a little crazy.
Eh.
Says the guy dressed up like fucking Zorro. Like motherfucker.
What do you mean,
You're
like
the
so?
least stable motherfucker in this entire chat, dude.
I didn't come on here like I'm just wearing cultural
point.
clothing.
Just trying to blend in,
Case in
boo.
fucking point, Richard thinks this is normal. He's fucking trying to talk about other people's sanity.
I knew when you were getting passive-aggressive this morning that there was going to be some punchline on.
I was not passive aggressive. I'm totally in this. I'm totally in this space where I'm just like, hey, you want to do that?
Man.
Cool. My passive aggressiveness, or what you're interpreting as passive aggressiveness, is really just dankness, dude.
What's lost?
It's
What's
really-
lost on this
good
fucking
energy.
like the whole
It's
broadcast?
just like literally getting up in the morning, looking at the clock, or looking at my watch, and going, let's get this day rolling because it's gonna keep going.
Hey, Bob Olin
Hey,
just
Bob.
joined us. Hey, Bob.
Please never try to
Bob.
tell
Hey,
me how to
Bob.
cut a promo again. I love you, but don't do that.
How you doing
Uncle
there?
Bob
Oh,
out
man.
behind the
That
woodshed.
was a beautiful day. But what's really lost on this broadcast audience is the fact that, like, Eric and Richard are the prototypical tag team that bitter like an old fucking married couple. Like, they just fight all the time about the dumbest shit. And the rest of us in the group chat just have to fucking sit there and be like, there they go again. Eventually they're just going to admit that they love each other. Like,
I mean, we have competing views on things, but usually when we sit down and we go into a creative, or come up with a way of doing things, it
it does.
tends to work out.
case in point, all of our promos.
Sure, and it's not. It's we butt heads, but it's not in a confrontational sort of way.
Right.
It's it's God, I don't want to make it sound this lofty, but it's like a Lennon and
I
McCartney.
mean,
kind
that's a fair kind of creative
Yeah.
simile.
There's no ego. There's no my idea is better than your idea. It's usually who can pitch their idea the most, right? Who can really just keep hammering on something,
I'd like
right?
to think of Dr. Magneto and Professor Xavier.
There we go. Dr. Magneto.
Dr. Magneto.
Everyone
Anyway,
knows
like
Magneto
the best
is a
kind of shit that we
doctor.
all make is when it's a collaboration between all of us. Like the 4 Inches of Meat promo that just
Right.
happened out of us being sleep deprived, sitting in a fucking room in Sacramento, just riffing for hours, getting to the point
Right.
where we're all laughing so hard, we're like, "Fuck, we gotta film this."
That 10-hour count was gonna work, right?
That's why I wanted the topic to be road
Yeah.
stories, but I think
Uh,
it's already 17. That's gonna
Yeah.
have to wait.
So,
Does anybody at home got any questions for us? Well, of course, we're all home, but
Yeah, or we should be.
Yeah, I found a lot when we get these students that come in, you'll find these, the first bump, the first time they get smothered, the first time they kind of get held, where they literally feel helpless. Those are the kind of keys that you could tell if a person's going to come back or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
You smother someone, you hold them down on the mat, they bump and you're like, okay, do it again, like just totally nonchalant.
Top rope bump, man.
Yeah. You just run them through things that you know are safe, things that should not endanger them, but will frustrate them or cause them discomfort.
Yeah.
You can tell right away if they're going to be there or not.
Yeah. Yeah. The one key phrase that I always look for when training guys, when I kind of like, hey, maybe there's something to this, and it's so simple, but when we're going through a drill or we're learning something, if they just ask if they can try it again.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised how few, like someone doesn't know how to do a front shoulder roll, and they fuck it up and like, no, dude, it's like this, yada yada yada, and they're like, okay, and then they go get back in line. Versus the kid who wants to make it or is going to make it, who's like, oh, okay, can I try it again?
Yeah. Oh. And that's how it is.
So many guys.
Those are the guys that are going to do better.
So many guys are just like, guys, let's just move on to something else. And it's the guys who are just like, no, fuck it. I want to fucking do this. I'm going to do it as many fucking times as it takes. And that's the real benefit of having an academy that had 2 rings. Because, like, this dude can't get the shit done. Go over there, fucking do it till you get it right, and the rest of us will move on. And we can't do that in, like, the kind of places that we're training now, because unless we have mats, and there's only so much you can do with mats, unless you're a fucking psychopath, like...
Now we talk.
You don't need mats necessarily to do pure wrestling stuff, right? You got a inch and a quarter, inch and a half of foam on the ground on the concrete.
I wouldn't ask a guy to practice heel bumps on a fucking wrestling mat on the concrete. I mean, unless you want to get rid of them real fast, sure.
Yeah, but
I don't know how many times I got body slammed just on the floor, right? Just like, get up, boom, and just be like, holy crap, you got to get used to this. Okay, cool. I'll get used to it. Hated it.
Training. My trainers would look at Gangrel, take the fucking clothesline on the fucking concrete, and go, I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's not a matter. I mean, in the moment, yes, you're going to do it, right? He must have been getting paid plenty well to throw his body at concrete.
That, and I think we've all interacted with Gangrel enough to know he's a little fucking insane. So
that's what I'm saying. It all comes back to being a little crazy.
Yeah,
he's a little
I
out
don't think
there.
he needed to take those bumps at all. He chose to take those bumps because if you're gonna tell Gangrel to take a bump on the outside and he doesn't want to, he's not gonna. And you can't tell him he's gonna take that fucking bump. You're
right. I couldn't imagine telling him. A lot of these indie guys telling him, I need you to be over, right?
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
I just can't see that.
I was there with him for a little while, and I could say for certain that he's volunteering it every single time. Yeah. And if anything, guys are trying to talk him out.
What a fucking man! I love Gangrel.
Yeah, he's awesome.
What a badass.
You know, I have to say, all the time I've been doing this, I've had the benefit, the blessing of being on so many shows with guys like that who were willing to just let me pick their brains. And I see a lot of guys that don't do that. The first show I was on that was away from this other guy that I started with had Demolition Axe, had Bill Eadie on it. And of course I'm starstruck because he was the first bigger name guy I had ever met. And, you know, after my match and after his match was done, I came up all meekly, like, thinking, you know, what the hell do I say to this guy? This is, you know, I'm beneath this. And I'm all like, would you mind if I ask you a few questions about wrestling. And he just sat there for like 30 minutes and just talked to me. And I've been blessed to have so many guys willing to do that, willing to ask questions. WC, we had Gangrel, we had Stryker, Grappler, various guys who were willing to pull you aside and, were watching what we were doing when they didn't need to be sometimes. Yep. And, I mean, that's invaluable.
Absolutely.
I've got a question before we go, because this just popped into my head a minute ago. When all you guys are in training, there's always things that are easy for every individual, and there's always things that just don't want to come for you. Mm-hmm. What amongst us are some of the things that we had a real hard time getting? I remember for me, because of my military training, I was willing to throw myself into things the way big guys like me didn't. So a lot of bumps, I threw myself off the top rope doing the first front bumps. But doing a back bump, just, throwing myself backward off the second rope or the top rope, I don't think I ever really got that. It's like I couldn't get my body to just lock that in the way I could every other type of bump that I was told to do. And I tried for years. And it's like I would never quite land flat, could never quite land the way I needed to. And then I see other guys get in there first time, bam, and I'm like, you dirty.
You son of a bitch. That was mine too. Was the second rope schoolboy. I don't know. I mean, it was just a mental block of some kind. But yeah, it took me, I would say, a year into training, and my trainers, like, they fucked with me about it and fucked with me until I remember G-Shock was gone 1 week, or when he was gone the week that I figured it out, and so like I fucked with him back by just like I totally downplayed it. I totally kayfabed him on being able to do it. When he came back, he's like, oh, okay, like, all right, kid, you know what time it is, whatever. And I was like, oh no, acting like I still couldn't do it, right? And I just went out, popped up, and I just let him just to see his face, like, oh,
Yeah, I had to go through a constant deprogramming, right? It was just this constant. Yeah. You got to throw out all this knowledge that you've gained, and make space for more. Which when you're reprogramming your mind, falling on the mat is falling on the mat, right? Martial arts do it. You have break falls, right? That's just how it is. Judo, jiu-jitsu's, in Muay Boran, you learn how to fall. That's just part of the system, part of the routines.
Yeah.
Running the ropes, getting the right pattern, because why am I going to run in fighting, right? Picking up my head, like the stupidest little things that I remember just getting pissed off about. Picking up my head on a clinch or on the lockup, where I'm like, no, I want to drive my head, I want my head off of that center, right? I want a dominant position immediately. Just little things like that were tough. But the one that has stuck with me, and to this day, I do not like them. I go out of my way to... Yeah, go ahead.
Nothing. I was going to learn more.
Yeah. Oof. I do not like Beals.
Yeah.
Off the top rope, I'll Beal off the top rope. I do not like the standing flippy Beal. Don't care for them at all.
Beals are my absolute favorite.
Well, you look impressive as fuck taking them, because you just soar through the air. It's like a fucking cannonball.
The best part is you'll see someone who hasn't seen me do a Beal, and they're like, oh, there's no way this fucking fat kid's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And boom!
Like,
and then they're like...
was it a solid year in training? Every time you'd Beal, all of us would fucking bump?
Yeah.
I remember in a battle royal, when you came into the ring, you came off the top with something.
Oh, that was weird.
What happened? Oh, there it is.
Are we still there?
Yeah, we just all dropped for a second.
Is this thing on?
Everybody's webcams are coming back. At least Tubbs is back right now.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
That's
But
just
anyway,
that's just a weird quirk in fucking OBS that did a thing.
but yeah, I remember Spicy coming off the top with something in a battle royal. Oh, he's gone again.
He'll be back.
But Exotic's still there.
Yeah.
Jesus.
but he comes off the top with something, and I just launched myself over the top. the impact was so nuts. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I once chokeslammed him with a magic glove in a battle royal, and everybody else around me bumped out of the ring with it.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, it might have been that. Yeah, I think we lost Will for a minute. Oh no, he's back. We got
Hello?
him.
Is it me?
There he is. There he is.
Hello? Is it me you're looking for?
Yeah, and just to kind of dovetail what Eric mentioned about working, it's difficult. It's a different way of thinking, right? It's not as well. I'm on this guy. Let's do this, right? Let's forget it, right? I'm either gonna wear him out from a distance, or I'm gonna, try to get him down on the ground where he can't use certain tools, or whatever it is, right? However the strategy is when you're going into it, and literally rethinking, am I standing in the right position for this camera to catch this punch just right? And I see, like, I always compliment Eric because he's got that down. Like, he can just do that in his sleep. Where I'm still struggling. It's like, man, if you're not wrestling with me, if we're not tussling, if you're not, ready to kind of bop around, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
I remember. I think the last story we should tell, because I just remembered, was when Richard, when you and I were wrestling Lone Star and Mean Mac Traeger. remember this spot? Do you want to tell the story, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, man.
It's just so we're wrestling them, and we're in a program of some kind at BCW for the tag belts, and we're the official babies. We're both kind of babies, but we were being more baby, right?
Something like
By
that.
then, yeah, you guys were kind of on the way.
At any rate, I was taking the heat, and when we were in the heat, Lone Star and I were exchanging a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. I'm expecting to get cut back off, but instead he bumps and just kind of leaves me standing there with a free shot to make the hot tag. Right?
Nowhere near ready to go.
Yeah.
Nowhere near.
We're like 4 or 5 minutes into like a 15-minute match, right? And so, like, the heat just started, and so I knew we can't make the hot tag now because it's way too early. And so I noticed, John's Lone Star. Whoop, kayfabe. I noticed his arm is kind of crooked, just so, like, if you could see, just kind of like this, like kind of like a GI Joe laying there on the ground. And as I'm going to, as I'm kind of limping forward to make the tag, I loop my toe right there in his armpit and then take a face bump.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It was just one of those things. I didn't really think.
Wants to come in.
Oh, don't worry about it.
What is that?
I
Is
didn't
that the
think.
police?
I didn't think
It's his
about
grandfather
it.
back from the mousetrap aisle.
But yeah, I didn't think anything about it. I was just like, well, I got to do something, right? And so I took it up. But Richard, after the match, he's like, wow.
Just
like that.
Just
what
well, I mean, later in the match, when it seemed like he had died again, I remember you put him in a front headlock, front face lock, and ran yourself backwards into the turnbuckle, dragging him. Like, please do something.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, I don't know. What can I say? Sometimes you have to. It's just something you have to do.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
I can't.
I think that front headlock you're talking about was right after getting tripped up. That's how I
It
got
was
it.
pretty close after, yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
And you see me as like, I'll wrestle a guy and the guy dies on me. Something's going on, either gases or he's just like selling like crazy. I'll kick him. The whole time I'm screaming, for the love of God, please fight back. Please fight back. Or I'll put him on hold and I'll crank them in close to me and be like, come on, man, don't die on me. Please don't die on me. Right? We've worked guys that are just stare at us when they're laying on the ground. We've done next to nothing to them, and they're just dead.
The old pizza party spot.
Oh man, that was.
Billy's probably heard me. Even I've leaned in and told guys that sometimes, especially the young guys, just like, do something.
I've been that guy.
Right.
I've been the guy.
Hey, I've done it. I've died out. You know, we were working that 6-man match and had all those guys had all sorts of spots, and I'm like, I'm taking all this abuse. What do you expect me to do? You guys just hit me with like 6 things. I have to lay here. Remember, Flex comes in. He's like, come here, and he literally dragged me back. I'm like, what am I supposed to do, Flex? These guys just hit me with 6 big moves. You want me just to stand up and be like, man, those didn't mean anything?
Give him
He
the
puts the
again.
fucking Super Indie button and just starts fucking firing up on all of them.
Yeah.
Gosh, what would we do without Flex in this team?
Where I'm like, trying to give him the nod of like, okay, your offense, your high flying, run around, 450, whatever offense has to mean something. So I'll just lay here. You don't want to put me in a hold. You don't want to pin me. Cool. I'll just lay here because. Let me work my way up kind of slow. And Flex was having none of it. He's like, nope, get fuck this. Picks me up, drags me back, gets the tag, comes in.
Flex is the perfect median between like that style and like the accepted Super Indie style, where he totally gets both of them and he can meld them in like a way that makes it work. When the rest of us are just like, we'll just hold our dick in our hands and hope something good happens.
That's exclusively my style.
So we got to wrap up soon, but I was holding on to a video because
I saw it. I was just waiting for it.
The real origin story of me is that like I only got into wrestling when I was like 14 years old in middle school, and for people who don't know how old I am, that was like 2007. So I was not around for the golden age of wrestling. I had to have all that spoon-fed to me by my friend who no longer is into wrestling. We were supposed to do all that shit together, but as time wore on, he more or less kind of gave up on the shit, and now he just he does mark clubs, works at like a fucking bar and shit. Just kind of a sad existence. I say as like he makes way more money than I do now. But
right.
So when we were like 13 or 14, we decided to start fucking around on camera in our backyard. Speaking of the wrong way to get into the business. And we...
When you're 13...
Yeah, but then we found other guys in the same town who did it in a makeshift ring. And it was on public access TV right after WC was on.
Yeah, I caught a couple of those. I don't know if you were on them, but
once in a while I still am. So I dug
Terminator!
I just remember the Joker dude.
He was kind of my mentor at the time.
Oh,
So I dug up a kind of my journey video from back in the day that I'm just gonna go ahead and play it. And this is the first 5 or 6 years of me wrestling. I'm gonna move this over so you guys can watch it live and react to it.
Okay.
So let me... I don't know if the music's gonna play, hopefully not.
It better
It's,
be Alice in Chains or I'll be
Ted
pissed.
Key song, and it looks like it's not playing, so we're fine. And this goes across from me being anywhere from age 13 to age 17.
Oh. Awesome.
So, yeah, that's going on the theme of burying myself here. See if you can see any similarities between me then and me now. Obviously, the parts that don't have a ring, I was much younger.
Yeah.
Get that old.
You know what's sad is because yours isn't coming from almost 20 years old VHS tapes. It still looks better quality than the stuff I have from my.
I know, man.
days.
I know.
Oh.
Like the fact that you can still find some of this stuff on YouTube. I'm not going to tell anybody where the fuck it is, but this still exists in some places.
Oh
man.
no, ICPP.
Yeah, man, I was a hardcore juggalo back in the day. Check out that fucking thumbtack into the head spot for $0.
Oh, hell of a super kick.
Brother.
The guy with the long hair, if you catch him once in a while, is the guy who got me into all this.
Hey, there's a crossface that'll make you not your friend. Right across the fucking nose.
Well, that's the appropriate place
Baby's
to put
first
it.
blade job.
Oh,
You can catch my white guy dreadlocks once in a while in here. My crown of barbed wire thorns because I was an edgy kid.
Hell yeah, dude.
was that like an 8-foot
Yeah,
ring?
it was fucking high, dude. Funny story actually. The guy who made that ring trained with WC for a whole day, and mostly went there to check out how the ring was built and remade it out of 2x4s from Home Depot.
Jesus.
2x4s and 4x4s. Check out that Pepsi plunge, by the way, that almost killed that man.
Oh,
Is that Bill Alfonso referee?
Might as well have been. And there's my not the ECW title. White guy dreadlocks.
So good.
Yeah, man, it was quite an experience.
Oh.
Shaved head.
Shaved head
Shaved
because I
head,
got
yeah.
lice in those dreadlocks.
God damn.
Oh.
I hung out with the wrong chick, and one thing led to another, and I ended up with lice in those fucking dreadlocks, and that was miserable.
Wow.
Jesus.
And Jikari, yes, those were just ropes and actual turnbuckles, and they broke all the time.
Yeah, you know.
I had multiple
As
times
rope
where I was
does.
on the top rope and jumped, and the rope would snap, coil around my foot, and faceplant me into the fucking carpet pad.
ouch.
Wow.
Now that's the video we want to see.
I could, you know what? Just remind me later on. I can dig up like the worst ring malfunctions from back then. I'll make a thing.
I had that friend of mine ask me something here. I want to answer this real quick. Like,
Sure.
says, what was your best CWM? That was that promotion I was part of when I first got started. What was my best memory? Probably when everything started to go down. When I started to, because I was the first one, probably because I was older than the other guys. I was like 27. So I was the first one that started really realizing something was wrong, that the words and the deeds were not matching. So after a show, me and this promoter guy really started getting into it, getting into an argument that some of the other guys could see. And during a match, he had actually tried to grab me after he said that I messed up a move where he was the one that messed it up. Videotape showed that later, but he was trying to blame it on me because it was his move. But so we're kind of getting into it. Some of the other guys could hear us. And he's like, if you were in the ring with Tracy Smothers, he would have done something if you messed up one of his moves. And I'm like, first, you don't know Tracy Smothers. Secondly, you're nowhere near Tracy Smothers. You're more like Tommy Smothers.
Got him.
And the moment I said that, I heard several of the guys in the other room start laughing. That's probably my favorite memory from those days.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I need to do a whole separate episode on backyard stories, but I've got a bunch of them.
Backyard
I
again.
can't think of a better note to
Absolutely.
go out on.
Yeah.
In this podcast, we rethink our life choices. So I'll do the outro thing on behalf of Spicy McHaggis, Rat King Billy Moon, Al Tubbs Esquire, and Doro.
Bienvenidos.
I'm Eric Wright. You guys stay cool.
See you guys next week, next Tuesday, 6 p.m. We do it every week. I shouldn't have to advertise at this point.
We'll just call it out there.
Stay safe.
God damn it.
Heels.